What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Lana revealing some distressing news about her family, extremely sad news as two mothers pass away in wrestling, another superstar is staying home due to COVID-19 concerns, Vince McMahon is still firmly behind a WWE superstar's massive push, we could see an NXT call-up very soon, Universal Champion Braun Strowman was paralyzed at one point, Jim Ross calls former WWE Champion poison and cancer in the locker room, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. But now let's hit the intro and get straight into the news. Our first story looks at another WWE superstar deciding to stay home due to COVID-19 concerns. Now, over the past few months, several WWE superstars including Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have decided to stay home rather than continuing to feature on WWE television and appear at television tapings at the Performance Center due to concerns relating to the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, another superstar that has opted out of the tapings is Riddick Moss. That's according to Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio. Meltzer noted that the former 24/7 champion doesn't have the virus himself, but he has concerns regarding his safety, which are ultimately keeping him at home. With the recent spikes, we could see more and more superstars opting to stay home. Next up, Lana reveals distressing news regarding her family. Now, Lana revealed on social media that her mum has been diagnosed with COVID-19. She took to social media to ask her fans to keep her mum in their thoughts and prayers, as her mother was taken to the emergency room as she was having difficulty breathing. Many WWE superstars including Natalya, Peyton Royce, Billie Kay and Renee Young, who has also been recently diagnosed with the virus, all offered support to Lana and her mother. Wrestlelamia would like to wish Lana's mother a very speedy recovery. Next up, unfortunately sad news in the wrestling world as two mothers pass away. News broke that Conan's mother had passed away recently due to the coronavirus. This news was reported by Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio. Another, unfortunately, is the passing of Stephanie McMahon's grandmother, Evelyn Edwards. Stephanie just recently tweeted out a post saying, "Last week, my 93-year-old grandmother passed peacefully, surrounded by people who love her. One of the last things she said to me was, 'Let there be love. Love is what heals us all. To anyone who is hurting or struggling, I send my love to you. Thank you for everything.'" It's been a very sad day in wrestling, and we'd certainly like to pass on our condolences to both Conan and the McMahon family. Next up, Randy Orton's Summerslam plans may include a call-up. Now, Randy Orton is currently the biggest heel on Raw right now, and following an acclaimed feud with Edge, the former WWE Champion has entered into a feud with The Big Show. It looks like the two legends are going to face off at the horror show at Extreme Rules, which will leave Orton's SummerSlam opponent up in the air. Orton had himself pitched to face former NXT champions Adam Cole or Tommaso Ciampa. Now, since Adam Cole recently lost the NXT Championship last night to Keith Lee at the Great American Bash, it could strongly suggest that he's being called up to the main roster, especially if Randy Orton wants to face him. However, TalkSport's Alex McCarthy reported that Orton may be going one-on-one with current WWE Champion Drew McIntyre. McCarthy took to Twitter to state, "I was also told Orton's immediate thoughts after learning Edge was injured was the pivot to either Adam Cole or Tommaso Ciampa at SummerSlam. Not sure on current plans, but common sense says Randy is top heel, best matchup for Drew." It was also initially rumored that McIntyre would be facing Brock Lesnar in a WrestleMania 36 match, but those plans appear to be cancelled due to travel issues, as Brock is currently residing in Canada. If WWE manages to sort out the travel issues, they could place Brock in a feud straight away. Next up, Vince McMahon is still firmly behind the superstar's push. WWE Chairman Vince McMahon is the one behind Otis's current push in the WWE, despite Otis seemingly not having any focused plans on WWE television over the past few months. This is what Fightful Select has reported. This has resulted in the successful pairing with Mandy Rose and him winning the Money in the Bank briefcase earlier this year. But as per Fightful Select, Otis is said to be one of McMahon's favourites and a total Vince McMahon project. It was added that both members of Heavy Machinery are said to be insanely popular backstage and have made popular impressions. We'll just have to see what Vince has in store for him. Next up, Braun Strowman reveals that he was paralyzed once. A reigning Universal Champion Braun Strowman recently took to his personal social media account to share his inspiring story of his journey from being practically homeless to being one of the biggest modern-day superstars in the WWE. In a social media post, Braun reflected on his 7-year-long struggle to reach where he is today. He talked about working at numerous different jobs while he devoted his extra hours into his training. It was a long social media post, but here was the gist of it. So it dawned on me just now, this selfie I took was 7 years ago this past weekend, when my life forever changed. You see in this pic, this was my tiny Kia Soul that I packed with everything I owned to head to Florida with $150 to my name. For the 8 months prior to that, I was pretty much homeless. I would stay at friends' houses and sleep where I could because I was jobless, minus some part-time security work here and there. I had to put every ounce of my being into strongman for many years. He continued saying, but walking away from a sport I loved so much was very hard to do. Now looking back, it was the best decision of my life. I took a chance I had no idea what I was getting into when I started with WWE 7 days into learning to be a wrestler. I had 2 broken ribs. For pretty much 2 years when I was in development, I was injured from ribs to torn PCL to rupturing my L5-S1 disc and paralyzing my left leg that required emergency surgery to allow me to walk again. I refused to let any of that stop me because I fell in love with the business that is sports entertainment, and I knew deep down inside that God put me on this earth to be one, and I'm beyond blessed to look back now and see what I had to go through to get where I am now. That's quite an inspirational post from Braun Strowman, and he's not alone, as many wrestlers had struggled when they first started their wrestling career. But look where Braun is now. He's currently the Universal Champion and he's set to face Bray Wyatt at the Horror Show at Extreme Rules in a Swamp Fight match. Next up, a new NXT champion Keith Lee wants to face WWE champion Drew McIntyre. Keith Lee defeated Adam Cole at the Great American Bash last night to become the new WWE NXT champion, and not only does Lee hold the NXT title, but he also holds the North American Championship, a title he's held for 170 days. But while speaking on the WWE's The Bump, Lee stated that he would like to face WWE champion Drew McIntyre. He mentioned, absolutely, Drew McIntyre is something that I never had a singles match with, but I guarantee you this, he would like to have one with me because I ran him out of Evolve and I ran him out of NXT. I would like to make that idea into a match. I think the WWE Universe would enjoy it because he's a super athlete. He's not normal. Competitively speaking, this idea makes my blood boil. We think a Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre bout would be fantastic, but unless Keith Lee or Drew McIntyre turns heel, we won't probably see that match happening, as WWE hates the babyface versus babyface concept for matches. But what do you guys think? Would you like to see that happening? Does Keith Lee have it in him to become WWE Champion one day? Next up, Jim Ross calls former WWE Champion The Ultimate Warrior poison and cancer in the locker room. Jim Ross recently spoke about the late Ultimate Warrior on his popular podcast Grillin' JR. The current AEW lead announcer stated that the Ultimate Warrior was not very well liked backstage. He added that even someone like Bobby Heenan, who was very amicable, did not find the Warrior likable in the slightest. JR stated that the Ultimate Warrior was not a good guy. He went on to say that the Warrior was poison and that he wasn't built for the locker room and always behaved in a selfish and arrogant manner. Here's what he had to say about the Warrior. He was a problem child. He had a limited skill set. I'm not going to fall in love with this 8x10. Why do you want to bring in a poison into your locker room who has marginal wrestling skills, who always wants something different, something better? He was irrational. Again, the cancer in the locker room, there was enough of those. You already had enough of them just based on the normal course of business. You eliminate the cancers. You don't want that in your locker room. Sometimes you have to bite the bullet. Now, we've heard many stories of the Ultimate Warrior not being a very likable person backstage, but for Jim Ross to call the Ultimate Warrior poison and a cancer in the locker room is pretty heavy. Next up, Taz introduces the classic ECW title to AEW. Taz appeared on last night's AEW Fyter Fest to announce the return of his FTW Championship that was used in ECW between 98 and 99. Taz originally debuted the title in 98 with himself and Sabu being the only 2 wrestlers to ever hold the title before it was unified with the ECW Heavyweight title in early 1999. The segment replaced the original billing of Moxley vs. Brian Cage, which was postponed due to Moxley's wife Renee Young testing positive for COVID-19. Taz revealed during the segment that he was awarding the classic title to Cage, as the title represents who is the baddest SOB in wrestling. And finally, the main event of the next NXT Takeover has been revealed. The next NXT Takeover event will take place August 22nd, and the tradition will continue with Takeover being placed the night before SummerSlam. Now, not many details are known concerning the theme of Takeover, but it has been heavily rumored that new NXT champion Keith Lee will defend one of his titles against Karrion Kross. That's according to Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio. But to be fair, you don't have to be an insider to think that this one wasn't going to happen. If you recall last night, Kross and Scarlett were seen observing Lee's victory celebration as NXT came to a close last night. It has been rumored that Kross was being positioned for a big push, so this would align with those reports that Triple H sees big things in the NXT star. But there you have it guys, the latest and wildest wrestling news stories you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.